Thank you for joining me for another video. I appreciate your patience with me, as last week I was a bit under the weather. Actually, I really sounded quite terrible. It sounded like I probably picked up smoking when I was like 12 years old and smoked a pack a day. Since then, and that just won't do. I can't have that because I was 14 when I started. I'm joking. Fun stuff. Anyway, let's go ahead and jump back into it. Last time we began chapter 5, we read up to, I think, verse 5. Yeah, it looks like verse 5. And got into the genealogy of Adam after Abel was dead. There's no nice way to put that. So, to be fair, they're all dead now. Okay, this was a very long time ago. People just don't live that long, as I've discussed multiple times. So, we're going to go ahead and jump into it, and we are still at Adam's genealogy. It's a bit long, 10 generations, according to the Masoretic text. The Septuagint actually has something very interesting. It adds in an extra generation. We're not going to talk about that. Probably the reason behind that is because they had a tradition that there was, in fact, another reign of Canaan. We're not going to get into that. If you remember from last time, we talked about the opinion that these are not the lifespans, the actual lifespans of the people. It's more along the lines of the lifespan of the dynasties, that people with these names, or perhaps similar enough to those names, were founders of, if that makes sense. So we're not going to get into what we got into last time. We're not going to talk very extensively today about really much of anything. I've only got a couple of things that I want to point out. One of them is another opinion for why the lifespans of these antediluvian patriarchs is so long. I disagree with it, but I think that there is merit to it. So I am going to, actually it's a cluster of opinions that are slightly different, but they sort of clade together. So I am going to mention them just because I think that there is merit to them. I disagree with them wholeheartedly, but I do happen to see the merit in them. Then we're going to talk a little bit about, you may have noticed that the genealogy here and the genealogy with Cain have several names that are pretty close to each other. So I'm very briefly going to cover that. We're not going to jump too much into it. I'm going to try to keep this video brief. And that is all I've got before I jump into it. So we're going to go to this is Genesis chapter 5, verse 6. It says, Vayechi Sheth Chamesh shanim uma'at shana vayoled eth Enosh. And so Seth, he lived for he lived for 5 and 100 years, and he, let's go with, he fathered Enosh. Vayechi Sheth Hare Holido eth Enosh, and after Enosh was born, Sheth lived Shiv'a Shanim U'Shimone Me'oth Shana Vayoled Banim U'Banot. So it says that he lived, after Enosh was born, he lived for, I just lost my place, that's wonderful. Here we go. For 7 years and 800 years, and he fathered other sons and daughters. I'm adding in the word other because it's not there. But he had other sons and daughters. ויהיו כל ימי אנוש 5 שנים ו900 שנה וימות. So it says that all the days of Enosh were 5 years and 900 years, and he died. Weichi, I skipped several verses. Man, I was afraid that was going to happen too. So we should be verse 8. We should be Wayu kol yameh Sheth, all of the days of Seth's life. Shtayim esrei shana were 12 years, and Uthshab Ma'oth Shana Wayamoth, and 900 years, and he died. Wayechi Enosh Tish'im Shana Wayoled et Kenan. And so it says that Enosh he lived for 90 years and he fathered Kenan. Wayechi Enosh Achare Holido et Kenan, and after Kenan was born, Enosh lived Hamesh Chesere, this is where we were earlier, Shana Ushmone Ma'oth Shana Wayoled Banim Uvanot, that he lived for 5 years and 15 years and 800 years, and he fathered sons and daughters. Wayu kol yemei Enosh 5 shanim, and all the days of Enosh were 5 years, were Uthsha Me'oth Shana Wayamoth, and 900 years, and he died. So 905, and he died. Wayechi Kenan. So Kenan lived Shiv'im Shana Wayoled et Mahalalel. And so when Kenan was 70? Yes, 70 years, he fathered Mahalalel. Wayechi Kenan Achare Holido et Mahalalel. And after fathering Mahalalel, Kenan, he lived 40 Shana, 40 years, Ushmona Me'oth Shana, and 800 years, so 840 years, Wayoled Banim Uvanot, and he had sons and daughters. Wayu kol yemei Kenan, and all the years of Kenan, or all the days of Kenan, 10 shanim, 10 years, Tishameot Shana Wayamoth, and 900 years, and he died. So he lived 910 years and he died. Wayamoth. Wayechi Mahalalel 5 shanim. So Mahalalel was 5 shanim, 5 years, Vishishim Shana, and 60 years. He was 65. Wayoled et Yered. Yared. Wow, I can't read today, and it's daylighted. I don't get it. So he lived for 65 years, and he fathered Yared, Jared. Okay, if you're reading an English translation, it's Jared, which is funny because like you look at all these names and they're like Jared. I mean, I knew Jareds growing up. I mean, this is. How funny is that? You know, these guys are just like, oh, I'm Mahalalel, I'm Kenan. Oh yeah, hi, I'm Jared. Like, that's just funny. Because some of us have a twisted sense of humor. Wayechi Mahalalel Achare Holido et Yered 30 Shana Ushmona Me'oth Shana Wayoled Banim Uvanot. And so he Mahalalel, after he had Jared, he lived for 30 shana, 30 years, or Shemona Ma'od, and 800 years, 830 years after having Mahalalel, after having Jared. So funny to say. And he had sons and daughters. Wayu kol yemei Mahalalel, and all the days of Mahalalel, Hamesh v'tish'im shana, where 90 and 5, well, literally 5 and 90 years. Ushmona Ma'ot Shana Wayamoth, and 800 years, and he died. So he was 800 and... I lost my place. Yeah, so he was 895 years old when he died. And we'll go ahead and close it here. So we read to verse 17, and next time we're going to pick up in verse 18. So you can see that there is a pattern here. This is a genealogy. It should very much look like there is a pattern, right? Because there is. So and so fathered so and so, and X had Y, and Y had Z, and Z had, I don't know what, double A maybe, I don't know, so it just kind of continues like that for most of the rest of the chapter. We are very briefly going to cover the little cluster of other possibilities in addition to the dynastic, what did we call it? The cadet branch theory that I got into last time. So really the majority of the remaining theories, aside from they just lived longer back then, which I personally find to be just an irresponsible use of your brain. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, what was so different back then that's not so different now? Well, everyone's going to look to the flood. Oh, there was a flood between then and now. Okay, but that doesn't explain why the first few generations after the flood were still a whole lot longer than people normally live today. And there are, I'm sure, good ideas about why that might be. I just disagree with them. So one of the possibilities that it could be is that when it says Shana, when it says year, it doesn't actually mean a calendar year like we think of today, right? So according to the Gregorian calendar, okay, that would be what the majority of the world uses. So the United States, the UK, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and other countries that don't speak English. France, for example, maybe bad example, but because they had their own calendar back in the day that was just outrageous. They had 9 days in a week. The French, man, they were going to protest for like 5 of them anyway. Getting off topic here. So the Gregorian calendar, named after Pope Gregory, who was egregiously gregarious. These are all names that are words that came actually from his name, so you can look those up. That's fine, I don't care. Apparently he was quite the outgoing person, but that's not really relevant. The Gregorian calendar, as you should all know, has 365.25 days per year, right? So from January 1st one year to January 1st the next year, assuming it's not a leap year, we're looking at pretty dead on accurately 365 and a quarter days. Every 4 years we have to add an extra day because leap year, yay, leap year. Nobody leaps on it. Have you ever noticed that? I feel like that, we really could have improved things a bit. Or perhaps, call me crazy, a 13-month year, right? 13 months. You could have all the months have equal number of days, but then you're still going to have the whole leap year thing to worry about. So I don't know what to do about that. Solar years, man, what could I say? It's a solar calendar. In Israelite thought, we use the Hebrew calendar, naturally, which has significantly less days. No, it's about think it's 11 less days per year, but it's not a solar calendar. The Hebrew calendar is a lunar solar calendar, so we reckon our months by the moon, right? And we reckon our seasons by the sun. Best way I know to explain that to you is if we had a purely solar calendar, every year Passover, which the Torah mandates has to fall in the month of springtime, would fall, what is that? What did I say? Like 11 days sooner every progressive year, until eventually you've got Passover falling in the winter, then the summer, and then the fall if you live in Florida. Winter, fall, then summer, then back to the spring again on a rotation of, 19 years, something along those lines. I can't remember. No, it's not 19. It's got to be longer. But we correct our calendar by the sun so that once every roughly 2 to 3 years we add in an extra month. Why? Well, because that was what was decided to do. Just kidding. God said to do it. It's actually in the Talmud. God said to do it this way, and so we did. And so far it hasn't let us down. Now, there were, off one tangent, back to the initial tangent, back in the day, which was a Wednesday, in case you were curious, thank you Dane Cook for that joke, they perhaps, according to this possibility, reckon time slightly different, where you could have the word Shana, it refers to the turning of the seasons. So you could have, a year. One Shana would be like 6 months. Another one, the next Shana would be like 6 months. The problem with that is that's still going to put their ages super long, because it's only dividing them in half. Then you come to, there is the possibility that perhaps the ancients reckoned time to where there were 4 Shana changeovers throughout every calendar year, so that you would have 4 years for every 1 year. Okay, that one actually does hold water. If you look in the Mishnah, I believe it's in Rosh Hashanah, very first chapter, I believe it's the very first Mishnah, it actually says there are 4 new years per year. So there's that. I thought that was interesting when I read it, because I'm like, man, Jews, we gotta make everything complicated, don't we? And the answer is yes, we do. There is also, now again, you're going to run into the issue of their lifespans are still abnormally long, because just dividing it by 4 doesn't really help. I've heard people go up to 12 and say, 12 is a sacred number. Remember, Jews, sacred numerology, and we have that to a certain extent. They'll say, so if you take 12, you take the year of each of these people's lives and you divide it by 12, that gives you their true lifespan. I didn't add it up, but I believe that when we come to the longer-lived individuals in this genealogy, I believe that it's still going to be a bit long. Or at the very least, they're going to be having children when they're like 5. Okay, both scenarios are undesirable, to say the least. So we're going to move on from that, and that's the reason that I like the what did I call it? The cadet branch theory, because it makes the most sense, honestly. Now we are also going to be getting into this week, very briefly, we're going to be getting into the names that I mentioned earlier. So you've got a bunch of names that between the Cainite genealogy and the Adamite genealogy that really, are very, very similar. For example, Lemech, the father of Tuval-Cain and Yaval and Yuval and Naamah, right? He, as it turns out, shares a name with one of Seth's descendants, who was the father of Noah. Lemech, the father of Noah. Okay. Also, there are a number of other names that are very similar: Irad and Yered, Jared. Okay. Also, you have two guys called Hanoch, right? You've got another guy called Enosh, and he just sort of is by himself, but it means man, which is very similar to Adam's name, which also means man. Then you have Methushael, right? And then you have Methushelah. Methushael is in the Cainite genealogy, and then in the Adamite genealogy you have Methushelah, right? Who lived for 969 years. Dude was old, okay? He at least his dynasty was. And according to tradition, we haven't talked about him yet, he actually died, or his dynasty, I should say, died a week before the flood hit. So, we're going to talk about that eventually. I am sure I am sweating like a stuck pig here, man. It is outrageous. The way that it's very humid out, it's very Florida out, and I'm going to just say sweating like a stuck pig is okay to say. It's kosher to say, not to eat, but to say. And then, I'm a strange person. And then we get back to the biblical account. Why do we have these similar names, or in some cases the same names? Well, there are two possibilities. One is they spoke the same language and just so happened to have similar names, or maybe their parents liked those names because, your cousin Methushael was named Methushael, and so we were like, yeah, but we want to have a little bit different of a name for you, so we'll call you Methushelach. When it comes to Lemech, maybe he was named after his great-granduncle, something or another, Lemech, I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. That is a possibility. The more reasonable possibility, and by the way, they surely spoke the same language, perhaps different dialects, but certainly the same language, because they would have maintained contact with each other. Additionally, they would have had conflict with each other. And that's what brings us to the second one, which is what I would tend to side with. The second possibility here is that these people who have similar and or identical names are perhaps the same person, counted by each genealogy as theirs. Oh, Lemech, he's one of ours. And then, I apologize for the noise out there. I can't control it, but I apologize for it. It's like the weather. I can't control it, but, it's pretty much constant here in Florida that it's going to be the way it is today. What was I even talking about? Oh yeah, the people who were in the Cainite genealogy, or the Cainite, let's call them kingdoms, at times were ruled by the same people who ruled over the Sethite kingdoms, and vice versa. So you have at times the Cainite ruler would rule the area, perhaps in a good way, meaning that perhaps, our king died, but that's okay, we'll just, go under the Cainite king for a while, and perhaps also there was conflict, because again, this is a region that's not especially hospitable at a time that's even less hospitable. So there would have been conflict over resources, and perhaps early kingdoms were squabbling with each other over land and or over resources, and one would conquer the other. They would rule over them for a few generations. The other one would throw off the yoke of their oppressor, or whatever the case may have been, and return back to native Cainite or Sethite rule. Okay, I don't have a fancy name for that one, but I am certain that there is one, and that's how I understand that to be. So, in the case of Lemech, Lemech, the father of Yaval and Yuval and Tuvoqain and Naamah, is identical with the father of Noah, because, as we saw, these antediluvian patriarchs had other sons and daughters that are not mentioned in the text. Perhaps this is a reference to colonies splitting off, but also, the exclusion of one group of people does not necessarily mean that there was no relation. So, the sons that are mentioned of Lamech in the Canaanite genealogy does not exclude the possibility that Noah was also a descendant. I believe he was, of Lamech in the Canaanite genealogy. Now, are we going to be able to say for certain which one is Canaanite, which one is Sethite? No, absolutely not. That's just silly. But you've got two guys called Hanoch. What are the odds that two parents just decided to name their kids just independent of each other? What are the odds that they chose to name both of their kids Founder? It's not a very good name. Okay, let's just be honest about that. Although, to be fair, I do know a Cohen who lives here, goes to my synagogue, who his father was Hanoch. So his father was a founder, I guess. Of what, I don't know, but there it is. That being said, I believe I'm done. Next week we're going to, hopefully, God willing, next week we're going to have another video, and we're going to get into the travels, let's call it, of these ancient tribes, because they did not stay in the region of Eden. And we know this because I'm in the United States. How did that happen, right? I'm descended from at least one of them, perhaps even two. Perhaps a father-son combo, right? That's not how that works. And we will discuss, God willing, next week, the migrations of the peoples. So that being said, I'm done. If you enjoyed this video, it was relatively short, but if you did enjoy it, go ahead and hit the like button. If you have not already subscribed to this channel, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Make sure your notifications are turned on so that you get notified every time I put out a video, so that you don't miss a second of my beautiful face. I'm just kidding. I don't even like my face. What was I even saying? Oh yeah, so if you're on Facebook, wonderful, so am I. Come find me. Just type in an Unorthodox Jew. Preferably use all your fingers, not just the index fingers like I was. And you can comment on the stuff there. You can comment on it on YouTube if you so desire. You can. I do put out more content, slightly more content on Facebook than I do on YouTube. But that's not really relevant right now. So if you don't want to miss a thing, just like Aerosmith, go to my Facebook. Feel free to comment on anything you'd like. Give the both the content and the page a like and or follow. If you have questions, I'm always available for questions. I might not always be available to respond to them. So it may take you a few days, but feel free to ask questions. If your question, and you could do that here in the comments on YouTube, you could do it in the comments on Facebook. If your question is something that you would rather not let it be publicly known that you are asking, how do I become Jewish, that sort of thing. I'm just kidding. I actually had somebody ask me that this week, and I was like, dude, we need to have a big conversation first. But the private messaging, yes, you can send me a private message. I will get back to you, I promise. You may find that I make a video out of your question because, frankly, I do get a lot of good questions and fun stuff. So anyways, I am done, and until next time, shalom.